never been a moment you were forgotten, you were not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter and I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS, yeah. Oh, and I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, and I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I hear the whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper you have nothing left. Oh, and I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, and I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It is true, I will rescue you. Oh, and I will rescue you. Oh, I will rescue you. I will rescue you.
Welcome, everyone, to the Andy Says MD show. We got a new way of looking at it now. I don't know why the lighting looks the way it does. Maybe it's just looking that way on my computer, but I'm doing a sound check right now. Can everybody hear us? Everybody hear? Well, can everybody hear me? If you hear me, you'll hear John. Anyway, to my left, your right, Dr. Jonathan McGreevey for U.S. Senate has some very heavy-hitting news today. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on and ramping up since COVID began. And Dr. John has put himself out there, and I've been trying to help him as best as I can to uncover these investigations to save the children. So, John, you want to take it away and explain where we started on this?
Good evening. It started a little over 2 years ago. Really right when COVID hit. People were locked down. Nobody needs an introduction on this. We remember. We're still paying for it. And COVID changed a lot of people's lives, changed the way we lived and did business and worked and school. And it may sound funny, but COVID actually changed the way crime was done. They had to. They had to adapt. Criminals had to adapt the way they did their business. And things changed. When everything is shut down and there's no cars out at night because everyone's home, you can't be driving around delivering drugs at night. It makes you a target, you know. You're the only one on the road. So things changed. And this started, I started a little over 2 years ago getting into it. And because of my background, I was able to work into it, use pre-existing contacts and experience. A lot of people are familiar with how I do it, or that I've done it before. And was able to get close to it, document it, work my way up, and find out what's actually going on.
And this is something that you have done, like you said, you have experience. I mean, your credibility video that we did the other day, I mean, shows that you're a deep cover informant. And you have certainly completed investigations like this before.
Absolutely. Mostly at the federal level, but state as well. Most of the cases that started with the state went federal very quickly because of the type of charges and interstate business. So I have the background for it. And Maryland was suffering, Baltimore was dying, and the murder rates are through the charts. The crime is spilling out everywhere. We're all paying for it. We're all living with it. So I wanted to get close to it, find out why, what's going on. It's easy to write it off, so it's a Baltimore problem, and it's a problem in Baltimore, but Maryland as a whole is paying for it. Your taxes are being taken for it. You're not getting any benefit of your own taxes because it's all going there. So I get in and find out what is the actual problem. Why can it not stop? Why do they bring in person after person after person to change things and it never changes? So I was able to get close to it, being in Baltimore, being around it, being close to it anyway. And started documenting that one. And it ended up going in places did not anticipate and exposing a lot of other crimes along the way and a lot of other groups. There's a lot of money behind it. It's run through the Safe Streets program, through a federal agency that I will not name. Can't remember the name right now. It's the one that doesn't do crap unless it's political and calls parents at a PTA meeting terrorists. It'll come to me. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. But they're running this program around the country, not just in Maryland. And there's billions and billions of dollars going for it. And there's billions going into COVID. So when all the money started focusing into COVID, they said, hey, wait a minute, crime is a health issue now. And all the money started coming back to them. But you find out once you get into it that people like the crime in Baltimore. They like people in Baltimore killing each other. Their whole perspective of it is to keep it in Baltimore, keep it contained, keep it there. That way, if it's focused in one area, they can deal with it, they get funding. And their whole approach is to keep it there and not spill out into the counties. Not to fix the problem, not to figure out what's actually fueling it and remove that, but to just keep it there. Let them kill themselves in Baltimore. And the politicians are aware of this. And they're aware of it to such an extent, like Hogan. He knows about it. He administers the statewide funds for Safe Streets. But it's gone up into these federal agencies, DOJ and the one that I won't name, and they're running it. But they've come across an unusual situation, and they've exploited it and made things much worse, as usual. It's pretty much what the government does. They're good at that. And it gets into one side of it, and getting close to that was fairly simple. Actually, I've done it before. And then getting to the other side with the children, because getting close to the big players revealed a lot of other crimes. So, like I said, a lot of this started about 4 years ago with the Safe Streets. But about 2.5 years ago, there was a biker club, a one percenter club. I'm not going to name them. We'll figure it out. And they aren't quite what they used to be. But years ago, they ran pill mills. And what they would do is they'd have hundreds of women all over different states, all over the place, and women that they worked with. They would go in to a doctor's office and get the maximum 90 pills of pain medicine and give it to them. But when you have hundreds of women doing this over and over again in all these different states, you get thousands and thousands of pills. A lot of profit. Well, they shut that down. You can't really do that anymore. You know, the government wised up, and they know what's happening, can't do it. But this particular group had these women that they were already worked with. There were some guys too, but predominantly women. So they already worked with them, already knew what they could do with them, and they started working with them again. And it started off with, they would order gun parts, things like that to the house, because if you have this many women around, they have hundreds of addresses you can send things to and never be tracked. Then you have the women doing other things for them. And in a lot of these 1%er groups, women are property, so it doesn't matter. And they started sending the women into other 1%er clubs as girlfriends, as associates, not associates, but as girlfriends, as friends of friends, things like this. They'd be around. And they'd become informants. Now, this has been done a little bit here and there. I mean, somebody knows somebody, give them information. But this is the first time that this club had done it widespread. They sent women in to infiltrate their rivals, other 1%er biker clubs. And then they went a big step forward. They changed everything. They started cooperating with law enforcement because the information they got through these women would go to law enforcement. Law enforcement would then turn around and charge their rival members.
So they were setting them up, basically, you know. And back to the guns part, like when they were getting all these parts of the guns, so what, they all met up and they put these guns together, or had somebody comes picks them up, and then they're trafficking them?
Well, a lot of the so-called ghost guns that are coming into Maryland, I mean, this does affect Maryland. It's not just nationwide. That's why we're talking about it. And they would have every couple months or a month, whatever they could. I mean, you have one woman who has a friend, a sister, a mother, and she can have 5 or 6 addresses. So every week, non-tracked, she's getting the so-called ghost gun. Now, legally, you are allowed to assemble or even build a firearm at home for your own use. You're allowed to do that. You should be allowed to do that. And there are companies that put together kits where it's fairly easy to do. You don't really need any training. You don't have to be a machinist anymore. And what they're doing is getting these women to get these. Instead of doing the pills, can't do them anymore, they can get these kits. They can get gun parts. And they're sending them around that way. They can't be tracked. It's not one address getting 100 pieces at a time. So it doesn't show up. And they'll have people go around and collect them. They put them together, and now the $800 kit online, that firearm is worth $3,000 in Baltimore City. And they're bringing them in.
And how are they transporting these guns and the drugs as they were doing with the pill mills? Is there a specific mode of transportation they use? I mean, I would imagine I-95 is probably the, biggest interstate that they would ride up and down the East Coast.
Well, 95 certainly, but they were coming from Pennsylvania, Jersey, Delaware, a lot of them coming through back roads. But the larger shipments, especially the drugs, were coming in and being taken down by boat, actually, through Chesapeake Bay. Because at this time, like I said, only during the day was there really any kind of traffic. Remember, it was COVID. People locked down. People weren't working. So,
and that definitely makes sense because, the story that Allie did the investigation on with Hooper's Island, finding out in 1999 they had the raid at Fishing Creek there, and the drugs were coming in by waterway. So is this all tied together with that as well, or just the same method or same people?
Well, it's certainly a part of it. And they're coming through Cecil County a lot, Cecil and Harford County. Local law enforcement is kicking ass. They're doing what they can. It's the feds screwing everything up. And if this had been a legitimate law enforcement investigation where they're investigating, say, a 1%er club or organized crime of some kind and getting intelligence to build a case, great. That's their job. These guys are doing what they do, taking their chance. The law enforcement's doing what they do. Not getting involved, but it's not. They're twisting it around, and they're putting people in danger and laughing about it. They think this isn't law enforcement. It's turned into an intelligence operation, and it's getting people killed. And they don't care. You got to follow the money in this one, and it does get a little bit convoluted. So, trying to keep it very basic. You have this club who is attacking their rivals, and it started here in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Delaware, Jersey. This is where it started, and one of the biggest clubs to be hit by this was the Pagans. A lot of people have heard of the Pagans Motorcycle Club. They were infiltrated by women, one degree or another, and actually a couple of guys as well. And they were girlfriends, someone they trusted, someone they would talk around. And they were feeding information back to the club that won't be named. And it's one thing if they're doing something, because like I said, it's happened here and there in the past, but now this is widespread, and they're going right to law enforcement with it. Now they're handling their business through women and cooperating with law enforcement. But it got even worse. Law enforcement's gobbling it up, and it's going to the feds. But as more and more of the club that won't be named, as they got in trouble, more and more of them turned into informants and cooperate with them even more. It didn't take long for the feds to turn around and control this club. They basically spent years trying to infiltrate clubs, get one guy in there, something like that, get somebody into, on the inside. Now they have a whole club that they control. And this has given them access to a lot, because this is a long-standing club. The club's had relationships with people in the past, other organizations, very organized situations that they've had, and they're giving them information right and left.
Kind of like the mob, right? I mean, it's a totally organized crime. They have businesses set up, and
I don't know, but they are very family oriented. It's the thing is, they're putting these women in harm's way because these people consider them property. What do you think is going to happen to these women when they're discovered?
Yeah.
They're already considered property. Some of them considered lower than dogs. What do you think is going to happen to them? And yet, this agency doesn't care. And it's gotten very bad over the last year under this new administration and new DOJ leadership. They have really turned up the heat and gone after them. Now, the Pagans and the Mongols are the two big targets here on the East Coast. The outlaws have been infiltrated as well. And keep in mind, these are mostly women doing this in Florida and up the East Coast, but the Pagans and Mongols here especially. It works so well that they were getting such information. Now, this agency's patting themselves on the back, taking billions of dollars for safe streets and claiming these multi-month investigations, and they're not. This is how they're getting it. And it's costing people's lives. But they're stirring up trouble between these groups and leaving it for our local law enforcement to deal with, and they're getting hurt. Their job is getting immeasurably more dangerous, and they're not being told what was happening. Some of them have been working with the federal agency as a partner, and they're not being told. They're given a tip or saying, go here, go there. And I'll give you some examples of what they did. But local law enforcement who's actually on the street, got their ass on the line, is not being told what's happening. They're not being told the situation they're walking into or how dangerous it is when they've started up. So you have, like the Pagans have been hit very hard with it, Mongols, and it's especially out in California through Texas now, what's happening.
Does it seem like a monopoly that they're trying to create of all these one-percenter clubs?
Well, I mean, some work together, some don't. Whatever alliances they have, their business. But now that, the government has many times tried to infiltrate a one-percenter club. And to one degree or another they have, but now they've actually got control of a club. And they don't have to put one of their people in. These are people they know. These are people who have long-standing affiliations with organized families out here in civilian world. There's also in the prison system, and because sometimes they do go away. It's like they could be facing 50 years, and the DOJ will arrange for them to drop 35 of those, and they'll do 4 or 5 years. But while they're in there, same thing, informants. And they're particularly focusing on one specific group in prison because this administration believes everything has to be white related to crime. And I don't remember their name, but they're a very special breed of man. And, it's not someone you want to irritate. I hope they are all taking the necessary precautions to protect their rights and their trust. But this federal agency is really screwing things up for the money. They don't do anything that's not political. And what's coming around from all of this is they're allowing this group, a very large group that they control, they're allowing them to continue doing business. So we have hundreds of pounds every couple of weeks of drugs coming into Baltimore. Hundreds of guns are allowed to be brought in. It doesn't become a problem. It doesn't even get on the radar until it gets into Maryland, closer to Baltimore, and it switches over. The light switch, where it goes from basically these white supremacist groups to the black community. Then we got to do something about it. See, now they're killing each other. And you don't have... The last time you went through Baltimore, did you notice all the poppy fields growing wild? No. Nobody's out there producing the stuff. It's being brought in. Okay? You want to talk about people killing themselves over drugs. The drugs are being shipped in. Nobody wants to do anything about that. Because if you took away that, wouldn't have a reason to kill yourselves in Baltimore. But we can't have that. And this agency is screwing it up. They're allowing it to happen. They're bringing it in. They're not bringing it in, but they're allowing them to continue their business. It's gotten worse because now it's a weird synergy between this federal agency and this group that they control, and they know that they can't get in trouble. So they're attacking other ones. There was a pagan leader went to a party, and someone dropped a dime on him, said he had a gun, and he was arrested after that. I think he's taking a plea now. And I said, well, it makes everybody paranoid. This is one of my brothers riding around. They ratted me out. It wasn't. And they kept it out of court. They don't want anybody to know that it was one of the undercover women who was working with a rival gang. Now, right there, that's a little bit biased. That goes to motive. Did they actually see it? Did they plan it? What did they do? But they keep all that out of court. That would change the entire trial. And then you have some other pagans went to a bar. No problem at all. Went in, had a few beers, came out, and they were attacked. They retaliated, now they're facing charges. But how did they know they were there? How did they know exactly what time they were leaving? It's one of the women, see? And the rivals who are attacking them, the ones that are controlled, they're not facing jail time. Nobody ever puts them away for it.
Yeah, and they're putting everybody at risk for that as well. I mean, there are so many lives at risk. I mean, people are needlessly dying. They have the information, obviously, this agency, but they're not doing the right thing. Like you said, it's all political. It's so messed up. I mean, this information, thank you for bringing it. I mean, it has to come out.
It's getting worse. It's going to get worse as we talk. But they're allowing this 1% group that they know, they have also infiltrated from California over the Bandidos, the Vagos, out there as well. And here, East Coast was outlaws. And then pagans and the Mongols have been very heavily infiltrated because of this. That's where it started. It's been going on longer. So these would be people they trust. They're putting not only these people at risk, but when they are instigating trouble between these groups, what if they're having a few beers and a whole bunch of heavily armed people show up and civilians are getting killed right and left? Law enforcement's coming into this situation. They don't care. That's the problem. They just light the match, light the fuse, and walk away, and whatever happens, happens. And then they say, oh, look how violent they are. When they're the ones that started the whole thing. Then they want to complain that, oh, look at Baltimore. Baltimore's dying. You know they're bringing the stuff in. I got close enough. I can give you the names. I know the shipping routes. I know who's bringing it in. I know where the crap is coming from. I know where the guns are being assembled. I know who's involved. I spent over 2 years doing this stuff, And a year and a half ago, I was even able to get in and get a job working within the system, their system, to document everything. That's what led to other charges being exposed. It's now these people are so controlled, this group is so controlled, they're giving up long-time affiliations. They're using it to get into it. Like I said, Chicago, New York, into Jersey, Philly, and then down south. These are the areas they're concentrating on. East Coast up and over to Chicago, and then Texas to California. This is what they're concentrating on now, and they're growing it. They're trying to grow more. They're into the prison system now, and they're into the family system. And under this new administration, under this new DOJ, they're being extremely aggressive. Things have gotten much worse. People have gotten hurt, and law enforcement have gotten hurt because they're not being given all the information. They're being sent in a situation. As an example, one of these feds will tip off local law enforcement to pull someone over. They don't tell them who they are, or they'll just tell them, "Oh, a suspected, gang member," and they pull them over, freaking armed, and they just came from a house where they picked up their, monthly supply or whatever. They got quite a bit of drugs on them, guns. This just happened. This happened actually in Pennsylvania. I think it was Pittsburgh. And no one's asking. It's like, how did they know I just left the house? How did they know when I did my thing? So they're not asking. These are the informants that they have within the rival groups, like the rival guys, like the Pegas. This is the people they have in there informing it. And they picked up somebody just left the house. And so it's like really good timing. But the feds aren't telling law enforcement this. They're just sending them into these situations where it can get deadly quick. And it has. And then they're setting up these women to take the fall for it and don't care. And they'll actually start trouble with these rival gangs, rival clubs, where any civilians could get hurt. And they have. And it's getting worse. This is why we're bringing it out now, not just to stop this and to stop the violence in Baltimore, but if you cut off the supply into Baltimore, there's nothing to kill yourselves over. I mean, we're human. We're all finding some reason to get mad at each other, but they're doing it over business, they're doing it over drugs, drug money.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense with the spike in crime in Baltimore that has happened over the last 2 years. I mean, violent crime. I mean, we're always breaking the record every year in Baltimore City for murders, and it just makes sense that this is some force is driving this, because you got people like Brandon Scott. He's like, I'm trying. He ran on the campaign. He's like, I'm trying to stop violent crime in Baltimore City, but he's not. He hasn't done anything about it. And then the prosecution terms that Marilyn Mosby relaxed is letting these violent criminals right back out on the streets.
Mm-hmm. They are, and Hogan, or Harry Logan, that's what I call him, Harry Logan. He knows where it's coming from. So as I said, he administers it, and he's at the highest state level, so he's connected right into the feds. So he knows what's going on, and he knows it's being allowed to come in. He knows that this club is allowed to do their business as they have been. And it's not a problem until it comes in. So he doesn't say anything, but he knows it's coming, where it's coming from, won't do anything because it's profitable, don't want to do anything, and yet he's all too happy to blame black leadership in Baltimore for the problem that he knows originates elsewhere. And Marilyn Mosby, okay, she said she was going to relax certain prosecutions. It was a good decision, bad decision, whatever, but if you see the same people continuously getting arrested for the same thing, you're going to get frustrated with them, certainly, but nothing's changing. It's always coming in. It's coming in every week, so that would frustrate anyone.
Yeah, and we actually tried to reach out to Brandon Scott's people. There was no response from them whatsoever. We did get in contact with some of Marilyn Mosby's people, presented some of the information over the phone, but no return calls. So how much do they really care about it? And we introduced ourselves as two concerned citizens, a candidate for office and potential candidate myself. And we just want to see this end. This goes across party lines. This is a human issue. It has nothing to do with politics, whether you're Democrat or Republican, independent, whatever. we want to save lives. And this information can do that. And there's so much more to go through, but I just wanted to cut in there since I did mention Brandon Scott and Marilyn Mosby before, that we've tried to go to the authorities to get a response. So, continue. Sorry about that, John.
No, we have. We certainly have. Pardon me. As I said, infiltrated, worked there, managed to get a job there for over a year and a half within the city and document it. Get records and names, places, dates, and know exactly what's going on. And not there any longer, thankfully. There were a lot of examples in and around Maryland, Pennsylvania, and stuff like that. They're cutting out. I mean, if the clubs are listening, they'll realize, they're like, think for a second, and they'll realize it's making sense. It's like, how come, there's the club that's not named will instigate something, and we're the only ones charged. And then you have that club is taking advantage of it, actually, and they're attacking, knowing that they're going to be protected by the feds that are running them. So they're just running people down the street. They're trying to run them off the highway. They'll come up and try to run him off the highway, and then if he doesn't get run off the highway and he retaliates, he goes to prison, and the rest of them don't. So think about it. Think about the situations that have happened, and you'll know what's going on. There was one just recently. I mean, this is just a week or so ago. Things are coming in, like we discussed, from this, business as usual, being allowed in by the feds, coming in, and it's not a problem. Come on in. Free access until it gets to Baltimore, and it goes to a mixed race club. And I won't say their name, but they're pretty infamous. They can figure it out. And it's not a problem until it gets to them, and then here come the arrests. And what was it? It was drugs and ghost guns and firearms that were brought right in, given to them, sold to them, I'm sure, and then set to be distributed. It wasn't a problem coming all the way in. The feds made sure of that until we got right to here. And then guess who gets to deal with all the guns and the drugs and the violence? Local law enforcement. The men and women who are actually on the street every single day. Not the feds sitting in their office, starting crap with the people, making everything much worse. Got everybody at each other's throats, and then they throw local law enforcement into the mix. Let them deal with it.
And especially with the way the terms are now today with police in Baltimore City and around Maryland, with their immunity stripped from them. It's like, are they going to enforce the law? I mean, there's so many good people out there, brothers and sisters in law enforcement, that want to stop these crimes. But when you take away their immunities, they don't really have much of a choice in that matter. They're going to get prosecuted individually if they do one slight thing wrong. Or even if they don't do anything wrong and they just make their lawful arrest and they get civilly sued by that person who was arrested, they have no protections for it. So, I mean, this certainly seems like it's all by design. That as it gets to Baltimore and nobody can do anything about it, and it's going to politically make certain people look very bad. So, again, with this information, we're trying to cut it off at every possible angle so we can save lives and save the system. I mean, even though the system is totally corrupt, but it is still our society, and we all live together, and we shouldn't be living in fear based off of all this corruption and all this trafficking that's happening.
No, it doesn't need to be like this. They don't need to handle the situation. In the beginning, it was start off, and it was a law enforcement intelligence gathering operation. That's what they do. Great, do it. Do a good job. Clean up stuff. But they turned it to political. Then they turned it to worse. And now it's profitable. Now you can do it and get billions in safe streets and COVID money. So keep people killing each other in Baltimore. Keep them killing each other. Let that stuff come in. Let them kill each other. Keep it down there. Keep it contained, but we're going to make billions. Hey, people in Baltimore, you want to stick it to them? Live a long, healthy life. Don't kill each other. And they won't get any money. They'll starve. That'd be great. Live your life. But they are making money off of this, making political points off of it, letting it come in. And it's getting worse. Like I said, for the last year, under this new administration, under this new DOJ leadership, they have really expanded it, really focused it, and they're doing it elsewhere. They've gone from gathering information to putting people out there themselves, tasking this club with putting more women out there, and the informants everywhere. The informants within the prison system, the informants within other previous associations this club would have, long-standing things. And it's an issue, and it's going to get people killed. And when they find out, they're going to kill hundreds of women all over the place. Whether they're guilty or not, whether they're part of it or not, if they get mad, it's just they're done. They're property anyway. Many of them consider them property. And what do you think they're going to do with it? And they don't care. They don't need to do it this way. They can get information other ways. But this is quick. It's easy. They can sit in an office and do it. They don't have to work hard, but they make a lot of money doing it, and they get a lot of political points doing it, and that's what they're doing. And I look at the examples through, and it's like where somebody got some just what a coincidence they got this information. You know where it comes from now, and somebody's at a party, and somebody did this, and somebody tried to run you off the road. There's one in Jersey where they tried to run him off the road. Guy threatened a whole bunch of people, and they called up to him at a gas station, whipped his ass. Well, they leave out the first part where the guy tried to run him off the road. That would upset anybody. But because they're working with this particular group, or they control them now, they don't bring that part in. They don't. It doesn't ever come in, and it would change the entire trial. So, and I'll be happy to provide evidence and testimony for any of them that are charged like that, because this is a violation of rights. This is what they have done. This is dirty cop stuff. These are dirty cop tricks.
And you're doing good cop stuff. I mean, the investigations that you've done, you have names, dates, and places. I mean, this is physical evidence.
The guns.
You can certainly.
I got the names of the boats.
Yeah.
So, but
testifying to that, I mean, we already know, as I said in the beginning, how credible you are by all your testimonies and being vetted by so many different agencies, including the White House Secret Service. So why would anyone not take your testimony on this? I mean,
because they're profiting from it. They're making points, and this administration has made it very clear they only want certain types of crime to come out. Certain types. And that's why. That's why they don't want to deal with this stuff. That's why we're here talking about it.
Exactly. We're turning to the public. We're turning to people right now because we are the only ones who can do anything about it, or the only ones who may care enough to do anything about it. The agencies that this has been reported to on several levels are not acting.
Because it gets to a certain point, and then they say, shut it down, we know what's happening. But it's the dirty side of it. They're making it political. These are the same, like I said, the same agency that called you a domestic terrorist because you went to a PTA meeting and had an issue with wearing a mask. This is the same agency, using the same dirty tricks. I can assure you, no one likes a dirty cop, me especially. No one likes a corrupt agent, me especially. And other officers don't like that. And there's quite a few involved with it now. But they just bring it on into Baltimore. People are dying. That's fine. All of Maryland suffers for it. Your property values go down. Your taxes go up. They're taking it. You're not getting any benefit in your own community for it because it's all being sucked in there, and they love it. Because what do the politicians do? Shake hands, talk crap, and take your money. And that's one reason I'm running, to stop that and expose all this other stuff. Because you can't go on like this. You can't just make a career out of having people kill each other. And that's what they're doing. It's gotten that bad. What's it going to be next year if we don't do anything now? And like I said, I was able to work in for over a year and a half, and actually have a job within that system, right in the middle, and I exposed other crimes. So we get into that, and that's where the children part came in. These organized individuals have businesses. I mean, all the drug money's got to go somewhere. There's businesses involved. And some of these businesses, the strip clubs everybody knows about. There are other businesses like massage parlors. And COVID changed those as well. There's also adult stores, adult theaters. And I don't care what people do if they're adults. I don't care if somebody wants to go to an adult theater. Try to be safe. I don't care if some guy wants to dress up and be a naughty girl all weekend. I don't care. They're adults. But when you involve kids, I'll burn your ass every chance I get.
Amen.
So what happened, what it turned out to be was a whole network running along different roads in Maryland. It's branched out from Maryland, but it's up and down the East Coast. We have found this system. I'm going to talk about a computer system that was designed to bypass law enforcement. And everybody knows that law enforcement, all the different agencies track people who trade in child pornography online. They can track somebody downloads a movie, somebody sends one out, they track it to his house, to his office, something like that. But it's very profitable. This system came in because of COVID. They changed the way things were done because people were not out running around, but they still wanted the money. So you had a lot of people at home with an appetite for drugs and booze and porn. And they did this. Now, there's a system in place in adult stores. A lot of adult stores have booths where you go watch a movie. And they have big theaters as well, but this is in the booths. And this system is in 26 states now. It's up and down the entire East Coast. It's up to Chicago, it's in Nevada now, it's in California. And what happens is you go into the store, whatever, and you buy a ticket to go in the back. It gives you a code. You don't put quarters in anymore. You don't put money in. You can buy a code. And you go in the back and you punch in your code like a car wash, and then you go watch movies. You pick it out by topic. But you can go online and purchase for a lot of money a different code. So you go into the store, you'll pay $5 to go in the back, you'll put in your code, and turns on the system. That's your system now. That system's wide open. Then you can punch in the code you bought online, and that will take you to child pornography sites.
And if I may interject, because I just put the receipt on the screen there, and just to read it to you guys if you can't see it, it says, to use this promo code, start an arcade session with the card number at the top of this receipt. Tap the Live Cams button and choose a category. The promo code button is found in the slide out menu when browsing or chatting with performers. That's crazy. You can chat with the performers. This is a pay to play. But continuing, when you are ready to tip a performer, tap the promo code button from the menu and enter the code above. This code may contain a combination of letters and numbers. Once the promo code is activated, the bonus credits must be used in the same session and cannot be carried over to another session or booth. Any remaining bonus credit balance will be lost at the end of the session. So you can view live what's going on, and you can actually communicate through this booth. So you pay to play to get the code, then you pay to play again. How come these people can't be tracked?
It's designed not to be tracked. It's designed, law enforcement doesn't have access to the system. This is being run through private businesses. It was, for lack of a better term, a legitimate streaming system of one kind or another when it was installed, but it was wide open. And like I said, COVID changed things, and it's horrible. It has spread rapidly. When we started documenting, when we actually went and talked to law enforcement, in the time we took to do that, it had spread to 3 other states, including Nevada. And the point is, you would go in and sign in and watch big boobs movies or something. But with these other codes, you could communicate with a performer. You could go in with a burner phone, a burner smartphone even, and you can request a QR code if you wanted to. So, and they can activate your phone. They could see you if you wanted. That does happen, but most of them are watching children be abused. You can communicate with them. You can tell them what to do to the child. And it can't be tracked because this guy's not at home. It doesn't go to his phone. It's an entirely different system, and it's not online in a traditional sense. It's not being picked up. And they pay a lot of money for it. Those receipts are just about a week old. So it is happening right now. It's because it's been determined to be safe for the people doing this, for the people viewing it and the people producing it. When it first started, you were looking at videos of children, like older videos, things like that. You would just log in, you pay a lot of money, you could watch them all you wanted. You could even record them onto your phone, take them with you, a burner phone.
Wow.
But then the live shows got more and more elaborate. You would be watching a child overseas be raped, horrible, and they would pay a lot to do that. Shooting them's cheaper, but that's what they were doing. But it's become so safe and so commonplace and so profitable that just this one place was making thousands a week off of just their tiny percentage for having the thing in their store. But you have, instead of, a movie being made, or a child being abused overseas, this one is just down the road somewhere. This one could be in another state, but it could be down the road where you have a woman and her boyfriend and some kids living in a hotel, and she'll go out at night and prostitute, making money for feed a drug habit or whatever reason, but hopefully make a couple $100. Now they just put on a mask and abuse the child on a burner smartphone. They can make $1,000, and these guys are paying to watch it. These videos that they're recording are being traded online. There's new videos being popped up that law enforcement is getting in a traditional sense, but they have no idea where it's coming from. And it's this system. It's horrible. The first one I remember, when I first heard the system, somebody was watching one of the movies, and when they opened the booth, it was a child screaming, and you could tell it was young. There was actually, at this one place, there were 4 booths close to a vent, and you could hear it. And then the first one I saw, where the guy left it running, and they were basically, he had left, he was done, and I walked back, and you could hear it. You hear it running. It didn't sound right. And you look, and they were actually still on the screen, but they were cleaning up the scene. And the child was maybe 8 years old. Got his tag number, but they're videotaping this. You can download it to a phone. They're selling it. They're collecting it, but it doesn't go anywhere. It would be similar to looking at dirty pictures in a public library. They can't track it to your house. You're getting away with it, and they're making a lot of money. And that's what the receipts are. And it's led to, there's other offshoot where they have these massage parlors, rub and tugs, and you can order a child. If you pay enough, they'll bring a child out. There's some in Harford County, some in Cecil County, Baltimore County especially, or ones where you do it on the other side of Baltimore City, where you can order a child like a pizza, and it's coming in, and it's connecting the same people, the same groups are connected to it. That's how it expanded into that. And I was able to work in and actually take part-time hours, different locations, and document it. I got the receipts. Those were cool. Put them online, but we were able to get close and document the people and the money transfers and the payments and the percentages and who's involved, who knows and who doesn't, and how to track it. We got detailed descriptions, photographs of the equipment, things like this involved. The front companies that help set it up and monitor the stuff and where the payments go through. We have all that because we're able to get that close, because that's what I used to do. So we need people to be outraged by it. We need people to be pissed off. We need public support for this. You can't be quiet anymore. This is no longer something you read about in the news. This is your backyard. This is somebody in your neighborhood doing this stuff. People can snatch a child off the street, kidnap them, put it online, and make tens of thousands of dollars and just kill the child or run away. I mean, what kind of a chance do you have of solving that crime? Not much.
And it's about 8 million children that are abducted or go missing every year. And who's to say that this isn't the system that they're going directly into? As John said before, everybody should be pissed. Everybody should be crying right now. And right after that, you should be hell on wheels to get this information out. This is very vital information that needs to go out because, as John explained, the agencies aren't doing anything about it to save children. They're doing it to make money. And this is directly putting a target on both of our backs. we're putting ourselves at risk for this, but it doesn't matter. We are doing the right thing for children. If anybody had this information, how could you turn away from it and just go about your daily way? This is a critical moment where people really need to stand up. We need to be involved with these child advocacy groups. We need to spread this information around as far as it can go. It's across 26 states, and it's growing rapidly. Since a month ago, when we spoke to local law enforcement, 3 more states have been added. This is huge. This is heartbreaking.
It's big money. That's why they're doing it. As I said before, a long time ago, children were the commodity. There are, on the dark web, where you go to buy some of these codes, some of these access codes. You go in there and prepay them, get them from the people who, when you punch in the code, you pay them enough, they'll give you the code, you punch it in, and you actually go to them when you're in the system. It's untrackable. There are, for lack of a better word, very hardcore, the worst of the worst child trafficking sites online. And you can't just click on it. You're not going to Amazon. They're sophisticated. This shows you just how sophisticated they can be. They're using the system to get past law enforcement's presence online, and it doesn't go anywhere. You can't track it. But you go to these sites, you can't just click on them and go in. You can't just sign up with a credit card. They test you. They want to know it's you, that you're not law enforcement. You can't just sign on. You have to produce child porn. You have to show them who you are. You have to give them original content. You can't record something online and do it. So this is one way that they're getting on to these sites, is going on to the system we're discussing, paying to have something very specific done to a child. And then they can get into these sites that they want. Well, these are worldwide sites. And you can Google all this stuff. You can find out these sites exist. And this is the other part. But this part isn't just on Google. This is not in the Philippines. This is in your backyard. This is in Maryland. This is throughout Maryland. And it's, the store down the street from you. And it's right there. So are you going to do that? Because this is your community, your kids, your state, and that's why we're doing it. But it's spread that quick. It's that much money. It's that profitable. And it's 26 states. And by now it's probably going to be 27, but it will be shortly, I'm sure. Because it's that much money. When you can just sign up, turn a blind eye. I don't know what's going on, like most of the people there at this one place. I have no idea. But it's like you're the one that set up the system. But you're the one allowed to come in, and you've seen it even more than I have. But when they're getting their $500 a week under the table, whatever, they just pretend like it doesn't exist. And I don't. So they can shove all that money straight up their ass. I don't care how much it is. I won't burn anything around. So,
infants, toddlers, adolescents, teenagers being physically prostituted, trafficked, videotaped, like it's a fucking game. This is absolutely abhorrent to human nature. We are made in the likeness of God. And these evil people that are doing this need to be brought to justice.
The feds they're not doing law enforcement's work. They're making things worse for law enforcement, worse for the communities. They're only managing the situation for political and money. But we're the ones paying for it. We're the ones whose family members are dying. We're suffering, state's suffering, and they're allowing it to come in. And this isn't the only state they're doing it in. I mean, it's in multiple states are doing this. It's just this is the one where I was able to get under and document everything. And, I got the feds' names, too. So, they got their $2,000 suits. I bought my suit for the Senate, got it off Amazon. But they got their $2,500 suits, looking good. But that's your money, that's not going to your community. And they're getting it for allowing it to come in. To me, that's no different than them selling the drugs themselves. You allow it to come in, you're a scumbag too. I don't care what badge you're carrying. You allow people to get killed over it, you think it's funny? You start shit and let people kill each other, kill civilians, and you think it's funny? Yeah. You allow law enforcement to get killed? No. You're a scumbag.
Again, it's your money. Taxpayer dollars. Hard at work for doing nothing. Absolutely abhorrent.
Bad. It's going to get worse. And like I said, from the last year, this new DOJ administration is pushing. It's only going to increase. And because it's being managed and not stopped, it's going to increase. The abuse is going to increase. The drugs, the guns, everything's going to increase. The murder rate's going to go up. We'll set new records every year because it's profitable for them. It's politically profitable, not just financially. We need you to be pissed off.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody in the chat and everybody that sees this video should just be like raging pissed off right now. Get in contact with everyone you possibly can. Obviously, the agencies aren't really doing anything about it. Local law enforcement, they want to do something about it. And they are doing things about it. But not all the local law enforcement agencies know about this. Especially in Maryland, we have 24 counties. We need to reach out to all our sheriffs, all our state police, all our chief of police. We need to make something happen. We need to have this groundswell to save the children. It's absolutely disgusting and evil what is happening to them. Names, dates, times, places. It's real stuff going on right now as we speak. This guy's running for U.S. Senate in Maryland. What was the last press conference that Chris Van Hollen did?
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Politicians. Most of the this is why I'm running to stop this. Most of the politicians shake hands, throw your money at a problem, and then pat themselves on the back for a year. That's what they do. We actually get involved. We actually go in the car. We change our life, our lifestyle, put ourselves and our family in danger to save other lives. That's what we do. But they'll talk about it. They'll look good in a suit, and that's all they do.
And they'll vote on safe streets.
With the money coming in. Cecil County. They have a Cecil County task force. The guys are going nuts. Getting hurt, getting killed. They're making busts, and it just never stops up there. Google it. They're going nuts up there. But they're not being told why. They're being put in danger. These are your friends, your family. These are local law enforcement.
You have to cut it out at the root. It's the only way we get evil out of here, guys. John, I think we should just end the show there unless you have anything to add to it. And
I appreciate everyone's time again. It was nice to actually be here and talking with everyone. It's bad. It's been 2 years of this, and it's taken a toll on me. It's not a pleasant situation. It's nothing you want to be around. And then when you get into the kid stuff, it's horrible. I can still see it. I mean, I have a hell of a memory on me, but the first time I saw in the booth, the kid was like this big. He was standing behind the bench, but it was so young you couldn't tell if it was male or female. So little they were. So get pissed off, get disgusted. So we need you to be that way, or it's going to continue. It's already getting worse. Next year, I can't imagine.
Amen, brother. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Please share this, and it'll be up on my Rumble. It's on my YouTube. I'm live on that, and I have a couple other cameras rolling too, so we can make some videos that are more digestible. I know people were complaining about the light. I mean, I got 8 lights on in here right now. I don't see why we're so red, but it's, you know.
You can't see light off of this head. Something's wrong.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out, you know, the best way to do this. This is the first time I've done a live show in person with a guest. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. And again, like John said, get fucking pissed. See you guys.
Please.
saw a pretty little thing approaching me. She said, "I've never seen a man who looks so all alone, or could you use a little company? And if you pay the right price, your evening will be nice, and you can go and send me on your way." I said, "You're such a sweet young thing, why do you do this to yourself?" She looked at me, and this is when she said, "Oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. You know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though you know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked." So we close our eyes for good. Not even 15 minutes later, I'm still walking down the street when I saw a shadow of a man creep out of sight. And then he swept up from behind, he put a gun up to my head. He made it clear he wasn't looking for a fight. He said, "Give me all you got, I want your money, not your life. But if you try to make a move, I won't think twice." I told him, "You get in my cash, but first you know I gotta ask, what made you wanna live this kind of life?" She said, "There ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. You know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though you know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked." So we close our eyes for good. To an end, and so I turned on the TV and flipped it over to the news, and what I saw I almost couldn't comprehend. I saw a preacher man in custody taking money from the church. He's got his bank account and a righteous dollar bill, but even still I can't say much, because I know we're all the same. Oh yes, we all seek out to satisfy those who fail. You know there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. I know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though you know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked. And so we close our